We'll call this meeting to order at 1:03. Thank you all for joining. I'm Todd Lands. I'm from the City Council. This meeting will be conducted pursuant to the provisions of the Governor's Executive Order in 2920, which suspended certain requirements of the Brown Act. Attendees will be muted until they are called upon for public comment. To make a public comment, use the raise hand icon on your smart device or desktop computer, or dial *9 if you're using your telephone. Please listen for our chair or city clerk to address you by name or by your phone number, and for the audible Zoom notification that you have been unmuted. Once you begin your comment, you'll have 3 minutes. Like I said, I'm Councilmember Lands, the chair of this committee. Our vice mayor or interim mayor, I don't know what we call her at this exact moment, is not present. And if everyone else could introduce themselves real quick.
Start with City Manager David Kelly.
Hi, good afternoon and welcome. Thank you for attending today's Community Advisory Group for Homelessness. I'm David Kelly, City Manager, and I look forward to further discussions today. Thank you.
Thank you. And Cloverdale Police Chief Ferguson.
Good afternoon. Thank everybody for being here. As she mentioned, my name is Jason Ferguson. I am the police chief here in Cloverdale.
And Miss Margaret.
Yes, I'm Margaret Slike, and I'm the Executive Director at Reach for Home.
And Kevin.
I'm Kevin Thompson, the Assistant City Manager and Community Development Director.
Debbie.
Hi, I'm Debbie Halbaum, the Chief Executive Officer of Alexander Valley Healthcare.
Jody.
Hi there, I'm Jody Kane. I'm the Integrated Behavioral Health Case Manager for Alexander Valley Healthcare.
Susie.
I'm Susie Holmes, Finance Director for the City of Cloverdale.
Melanie.
Hi, I'm the Program Manager for the Cloverdale Senior Multipurpose Center.
Anna.
Hey everyone, my name is Ana Rangel with Reach for Home.
Sergeant Duke or Lieutenant Duke.
Hello, thank you. Tim Duke, the Sonoma County Sheriff's Office.
We have Chuck. Chuck, are you out there? Not, we have Colleen.
Colleen Halbaum, Executive Director for Cloverdale Community Outreach, better known as the Wallace House.
Thank you. And I see that Chuck did join us.
Yeah, this is Chuck Modern, Homeless Service Funding Coordinator with the Sonoma County Community Development Commission.
Thank you. And Troy. One more time. Troy, I don't know if you can hear me. If not, I'm Irene Camacho Werby, City Clerk, City of Cloverdale, and I'll hand it back to our Chair Lands.
Thank you so much, Irene. I really appreciate that. Welcome everyone on our panel and all our attendees. At this point, we're going to move forward to the Northern Sonoma County Homelessness Task Force update. David, is that you or who's giving this one?
Councilmember Chair Lands, I'm happy to provide an update, if that's okay.
Yes, please. Thank you.
All right. So just a brief overview of the Northern Sonoma County Homelessness Task Force. This task force was established by 4th District Supervisor James Gore approximately 2 years ago. The purpose of the task force is to develop a 5-year strategic plan for ending homelessness in Sonoma County. The geographic scope of that plan is kind of Windsor North, so town of Windsor, city of Healdsburg, city of Cloverdale, and then the unincorporated area surrounding those 3 incorporated communities. The last meeting was on April 28th. There's a consultant, Supervisor Gore is lucky he's got funding to support a consultant to develop their strategic plan, where our process is, staff driven, grassroots. But at the last meeting, there is a brief update on the final draft of a strategic plan for the Northern Sonoma County, and the bulk of the meeting was spent on presentations by various groups. There was a presentation by county staff providing an update on some county homelessness programs. Most specifically, the is called Access Sonoma County, and most specifically discussed kind of the whole person care, as well as the two programs that support the access program, including what's referred to as the IMDT. It's the multidisciplinary team engaged in outreach with the homelessness, as well as the HEART, which is a homeless encampment access and resource team. Sorry, I got a little tongue tied on those acronyms. Following that presentation, there was an overview by Jack Tidbits, who is a city council member for City of Santa Rosa, on the Los Guilicos Village project. It's a project that was established by the county to address encampments along the Joe Rodota Trail. And then last but not least, there was a presentation by a group called DEMA. It's a consulting and management group that's overseeing county shelter facilities that the county has purchased through Project Home Key. I asked our city clerk, Irene, to share with you those presentations. I think it provides just a valuable background and information about these programs that largely the county has established as part of their homelessness response effort. And there are resources there and models there that we may want to look at least, understand whether there's opportunities to support them, in northern Sonoma County or in or around Cloverdale. Not sure they're all a good fit for us. Again, it's just information, and just want to keep the group, our group, updated on these efforts as the strategic plan area does include, for the 4th district, does include the city of Cloverdale. And I know Supervisor Gore is actively working on addressing homelessness from a countywide perspective. So, Chair, Councilmember Lands, that's the end of my report and update. But there were other members of this committee that were in attendance, so they may have additional feedback to share with the group.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else want to comment on this, on the County Homelessness Task Force? Unfortunately, I wasn't able to go to this due to 2 other council members there, so I'm working on it to get myself included in it, so I'm a little more knowledgeable to make things more efficient for us. So, not seeing any hands, let's move forward to the next item, which is an update from Police Chief Ferguson on the police response to homelessness.
Thank you, Councilmember Lands. Since we met last time on April 13th, as soon as that meeting was over, I did hear a lot of comments about the concerns for the fires, and we took that really very serious. I contacted Chief Jenkins right away and discussed with him trying to come up with a plan to work with law enforcement to be a little more visible and present down in the River Park area where the concerns generally were focused on. As you know, we have a UTV. We do utilize it down there, and we do take it down into the riverbed, open space. And fire department also has one with capability of having water available if need be. So we developed a mutual plan to work together and go down there and do some patrols in the late evening hours when we believe these fires are probably more prevalent for heating purposes and or eating purposes, and to have the fire department be readily available to address the concerns with any fires that were located. So that is something that we are doing currently, and we are going to continue to do as we move forward in this dry conditions, so that we can hopefully get on top of these concerns in any areas that would be problematic. I can tell you that we here at the police department, we've gone down there 6 different times on our UTV operations. We have made an arrest down in that riverbed area. We also participated and helped in recovery of 2 stolen motorcycles. And the lieutenant and sergeant have also been down there doing foot patrols. So we try to use any available person we can when we have the availability to do it. Also, we have a UAV, a drone. We put the drone up over the area just to check out for any spot fires or anything that we might find. We're going to continue to do that just to kind of keep an eye on the area with the drone. And as far as the plaza was concerned, since we last had a meeting, we've done 36 more foot patrol activities in and around the plaza and business district, as well as contacted individuals, homeless individuals, 12 different times. I recently got a photograph and some concerns regarding individuals sleeping in the alcoves right in front of doors to businesses. So the response to that, of course, is we were going to redirect our community services officer, and every morning at 7, we have that individual going through the business district on foot, notifying any individual that's blocking a public access way to a business that they are moved along. And so far, we've already done that, I think, 4 times in the 2 days since it started. So we will continue with that effort as well. And as we move on, we'll work with the fire departments and certainly work with the county. I've had some great communication with Lieutenant Duke. He's been very helpful in working with Cloverdale, and likewise we'll work with them. And he's probably got something that he would like to share. So I'm not sure if this is the best time, Councilmember Lands, for him to jump in on their behalf.
I would absolutely love that if Lieutenant Duke would be interested.
Yes, I'll be glad to speak on behalf of the Sheriff's Office, and I apologize, I won't be on probably after the next hour, hour and a half. So sometime before 2:30, I'll have to get off the meeting. But just as an update, we became aware of the fire shortly after they happened, and immediately started conducting some directed patrol up there and making contacts. Today, we were up there as well and made direct contact with some of the homeless that are up there. And we are in the process of posting notices to vacate, and probably within the next, I would say, 7 to 10 days, you should see a significant difference out there as far as those that are currently in an encampment area, because the ones we found that are on private property, we sought out the different property owners, contacted them, and with the assistance of the public as well, and we're able to secure trespass request forms for action to be taken. And that allows us access to go down there and actually use enforcement on private property. So we're also working with our IMDT team, as City Manager Kelly has mentioned. And when we do that, we like to offer them services. So that was part of what we did today. Contacting those that were present in their homeless encampment, notifying that there were services available, and contacting those that were there. And we'll be back up there over the course of the next 7 to 8 days until our job is done up there. And in a perfect world, on a private property where there are people that are currently homeless in the encampments, we hope to provide them services. And if we can't give them services, those that are on the private property will be removed per the property owners. So that's the latest update from that aspect. That's closest to the First Street Bridge. And then up north a little bit further is another project we're working on as well with county parks. So I don't want to speak on behalf of county parks, but I can tell you that one's in a forward motion and coming to an end here in the next couple of days. And then for North County, we're working another one as well, which is closer to Santa Rosa. So our resources are cut thin, but we're using them the best we can, and have certainly made Cloverdale a priority, particularly over the past 10 to 14 days. So thank you, Cloverdale, for cooperating with us and assisting us, particularly the citizens. And moving forward, I think you're going to see drastic change and big efforts from the county coming into the outskirts of Cloverdale to assist with what's going on there. And just one other thing, the goal on these sometimes is timing. As you can probably realize, if you try to work one encampment and then in close proximity is another, all you do is you filter them from one place to another. Well, with timing, we're hoping that we can get people the services and relocate them on more of a permanent basis besides just moving from one location to the next. So that's why sometimes it takes a little bit longer, a little bit more effort, a little bit more resources. And that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to do it right with one giant effort versus having some of the encampments possibly disperse into other areas. There are times when maybe we won't be able to control that, but we're going to do our best that we can moving forward, particularly over the next, like I said, 7 to 10 days or so. You should see a drastic difference up there. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Lieutenant, and thank you, Chief, for that. I have also been working with Supervisor Gore. We've been in contact and meeting regarding this and the properties that you guys have been going down to and making contact at. So I'm going to be putting out an email later this afternoon to fill you guys in, along with David Kelly, to let you know what the next 2 weeks, there's some plans in the works that I want to make sure you guys are all part of and agree with. So just a heads up. Okay, moving forward, David Kelly, I believe this will be you with the overdraft overview of the draft strategic plan.
Yeah, happy to provide an overview for community advisory group. And again, part of why we're recapping is there was a delay in moving through the plan, because of COVID. Unfortunately, we made tremendous progress. I think we got to, goal 6. And when reviewing it and getting feedback from this group in the community. And so what we really want to do is just make sure, especially as time has progressed, and we're in a quickly adapting environment, that the goals and the strategies that have been identified in the draft framework are still relevant. So just want to again recap those, at least the first 6 goals, with the goal of covering the final goal, in detail, goal 7, and ultimately later in the agenda is release of the survey that was prepared by Kevin Thompson to garner community support in terms of prioritizing some of the strategies that are included under the goals. So just a kind of a broad, starting from a broad overview perspective, the strategic plan framework is really intended to lay the groundwork for a strategic plan to address homelessness within the Cloverdale area. There's no specific time frame that's identified, though the idea was that, is typical for strategic plans, they tend to encompass roughly a 3 to 5 year time frame, and it's really up to us to decide, what's the recommended timeline for the plan. The plan, follows a traditional process of our outline, I should say, of identifying, what's our vision for success? What do we view as being successful? I think the key is that what you hear from the county is kind of functional 0, and our vision is along the same lines. It really, over the time frame of the strategic plan, is that we see it declining steadily as people are finding permanent housing with supportive services, while we address some of the public safety and health concerns in our community related to homelessness. There's a number of factors that are identified in the framework for success or for achieving our vision. That includes that there's support from all sectors of our community. And we recognize that that's hard to achieve. Sometimes unanimous 100% support by everybody, but it's the goal to get input and really build a grassroots plan that's reflective of the various interests in our community. It really is being implemented, or at least developed, by a coordinated group of professionals, like we have today with us Debbie Howell with Alexander Valley Wellness and her team that is looking at kind of the health and safety concerns of our homeless population. We've got Margaret Van Slyke here with Reach for Home, who's looking at opportunities to address the housing component for our homeless population. And we've got county staff that are here that operate and manage some of the programs that are provided or that have been developed to support homelessness. There are also a number of guiding principles that that are outlined in the plan. We really do want it to be flexible and adaptable as conditions change. Certainly, we recognize due to COVID, a lot of things have changed, especially the funding environment and the determination of whether that some of that funding can be made available to address specifically the initiatives that this group seeks to support. And overall, a recognition that it's not going to be solved by one individual or one group. It's really going to require a community-wide effort, a county-wide effort, and really a statewide effort. And that we got to be part of that solution to work together to tailor approaches that work for our Cloverdale community. The plan or the framework, I should say, really the basis of it are the goals, and there are 7 goals, and the goals were written to try and address, I think, what have been expressed concerns by the community. The first goal, which is starts out on page 17 of the framework, is to reduce the number of people experiencing homelessness in Cloverdale by providing access to temporary and permanent housing solutions within Sonoma County. There are currently 4 supporting actions to implement that goal. There can be others, or those can also be pared down and or prioritized, and that's part of the goal of conducting a survey, is to help prioritize what are the key goals. One of which that we kind of talked about today, that's or it was referenced today, was the IMDT team, which is supports this action, conduct outreach, encourage homeowners in this case, or landlords, to accept housing and rental subsidies. I mean, that's a program that can help get folks into identify services that they need and help them to get into housing. Certainly exploring creative housing solutions to create more affordable housing is an option for the community, and we want to determine if there's support for that. Goal 2 is to prevent and mitigate public health and public safety impacts on the community stemming from homelessness. You heard from the chief today, some additional actions that are being taken by our police department to address concerns about homelessness individuals in our business community. And we do have a business outreach program. So one of our supporting actions is to expand public safety enforcement surveillance. And one way, we do have a limited police department in terms of staffing, but can we leverage additional volunteers? Can we coordinate better with the sheriff's department and also Cloverdale Fire Department to address, again, some of these health and safety impacts? I think we're doing that, of course, but do we want to memorialize that as a supporting action? There are also some strategies here to address the need for sanitation facilities. So we've seen that in the past in Cloverdale, where we had a portalette facility in downtown, and that was a direct result of some concerns that were expressed by the businesses about the impacts of homelessness in our business community. And there's also groups that do provide community showers to support our housing population have access to sanitation facilities. Moving on, goal number 3 is implement programs to prevent homelessness among residents of Cloverdale. One thing I wanted to speak to is currently under the American Rescue Plan, there was additional funding provided for rental assistance, and the county is currently managing a rental assistance program for tenants that may be in their arrears, and of course owe money or back rent to their landlords. The program is intended to help, of course, the tenants stay in their housing, and also helps the landlords by securing the necessary income to support the maintenance of the property. And I see that as a key objective to helping folks from becoming homeless or becoming a homeless statistics should they not be able to pay rent and lose their residence. So there's certainly, I think, opportunities to promote that program in Cloverdale to help those residents that may be struggling with rent and could be on the verge of homelessness. I want to pause there, Chair. I've kind of talked a lot. I just want to check in. We're on, again, goal 3 of the plan, and see whether anybody would like to weigh in on either goal 1, 2, or 3. But that's up to you, Chair. If you'd like me to proceed, happy to. But I just wanted to check in with you.
No, I actually think that's great. And so if we could have anybody chime in now, and then if not, we have a hand in the attendees that I'd like to get to on the first 3, so it's fresh in their mind. Anyone in the panelists? Margaret, yes, please.
Yeah, I was just going to jump in and say for that emergency rental assistance program that you were just talking about, that Reach for Home is the administrator for North County. So if you know of any landlords or anybody who needs rental assistance, if you just go to our website, it's on there. Feel free to call, email, whatever. We're here to help get the money to the landlords and to help the people who are on the cusp of eviction. So thank you.
Margaret, this is Kevin. Is there some kind of promotional materials, or how do we get the word out about this program?
Yeah, the county has promotional materials. I'd be happy to get my hands on some. If they have a printout, I can work on trying to print something out to bring, or just forward it to you via email. There is information on the county's website and on our website. Okay. That's the easiest way to find information, but I do know that they've been doing a concerted effort. Like I've heard them on the radio. I think they've done newspaper promotions and stuff like that.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Anyone else? Seeing none, let's see in my attendees. I have Leanne Fabian. Irene, if you could bring her in so she could speak, please.
Yes, of course. Let's see. Okay, Leanne, you should be able to speak now.
Hello, everyone. I don't know what to say other than no one is talking about helping suffering citizens. I'm talking the unsheltered. That's the woke term right now. And the citizens of this community. How about the stabbing that happened down at the bridge? And by the way, that suspect is also supposed to have started one of the fires. So also you expect the mentally ill or addicted individuals to accept housing first. They're incapable of making that decision. And Kelly, stop using the word county, because this is not a county problem. This is a Cloverdale problem. That's all we're worried about. We just want our citizens to feel safe. I personally drove across the bridge a couple hours ago and saw an RV spread out. And I'm not talking a broke down RV. I'm talking about a $65,000 or more RV that has just decided to park on the county side because they know where they have to go to be safe. And there's a broke down car on the levee road and nobody cares. I mean, let's just talk real talk. Our citizens just want to be safe. Personally, I was in Ferber Plaza last week and saw a couple, an elderly couple, like they're like, I'm homeless, I need food. And I called them out. I was like, you've been offered help and you refused it. And they said nothing. So let's get over this housing problem and deal with humanity. These people need people to outreach. And Margaret, come on, you lost all credibility with me last meeting when you said there wasn't an official homeless count for the unsheltered in 2020. Can I tell you, that the county submitted those numbers, 29 in Cloverdale. So you're a liar. And why isn't
Leanne.
Marta here?
Leanne, we don't name call her. I'll mute you.
Oh, I didn't think I was name calling her, but I'm just saying that you cannot bamboozle us anymore. We know what's going on. We're watching, and just get rid of this freaking plan that is a county induced, like, oh, we have to follow the county plan. No, we don't. Cloverdale has our own problems, our own specific problems that the community has been dealing with. And every single encampment that's been cleaned up in this town has been done by community support, period.
Thank you, Leanne, for your comments. I really appreciate it. Is there any other hands? Let's see in the attendees? Yes,
Yes.
Renee Rowe would be next, please.
Yes, good afternoon, everybody. Definitely happy to hear some of the progress made between the Cloverdale PD and the Sheriff's Department. Sounds like you've addressed some of the issues we had since the last meeting. So what I would like to focus on is just a recent experience. I live downtown and I was walking to meet my 80-year-old dad and a visitor from out of town, and almost tripped on somebody that was lying in the doorway of the vacant building near the Clover Theater. And saw a whole lot of people just walking past him because it's becoming kind of a more normalized kind of situation. So I came back after having a quite long lunch with my 80-year-old dad, about 2.5 hours, and he was still lying there, and he was not moving. He was wearing a heavy jacket, and it was in the 80s or 90s that day. So I became concerned about his welfare. And I thought, gosh, how can someone sit there and no one else is called in? Because I did call into dispatch and was told nobody else had called in. And that's the kind of person I'd like to help, because I found out later it is someone that we've talked about before in our meetings. It's just not someone I've personally run into. But the person is a young man. He's obviously in need of mental health and other shelter. And so I'm wondering, that's the kind of thing. He is local. He's not a transient. How can we get someone like that help? Instead of moving him along, which was not the intent of my call. The intent of my call was, here's someone that is lying here in extreme heat with a heavy coat on, and he hasn't moved. So I don't know if he's even dead or alive. And so, what other services besides law enforcement can we get to help somebody like that to get them off the street? Because he apparently has been out there for quite a while, and we're just going in circles with him.
Thank you, Renee. I think we're all familiar with who you're talking about on this one. I know Chief Ferguson is, and I know that his family lives in town and tries to help as much as possible, but that's about as far as we can comment without having it agendized. Chief, you could actually probably comment a little bit about that since you are familiar. I'm without stating a name. I know that you are very familiar with him. He was a car accident victim, if I remember correctly, and has had issues ever since.
Yeah, if we're talking about the same subject, there might be a couple in reference here. I'm not 100% sure which one, but I agree, not name pointing out here. But I will tell you, to answer your question, I do agree with you, Renee, 100%. It's not necessarily a law enforcement issue. We're looking at resources to help these folks. I can tell you from our standpoint, we have tried to make those efforts happen. And I addressed this last time when we dealt with the mental health department, and I'm not pointing fingers at them, but I am expressing our frustration with trying to get that necessary help, because I don't disagree with what you say, Renee, when it comes to a few individuals here. But once that relationship transfers, there's not a whole lot I can do. And that's where we're at. It's really trying to hone in on those resources that those individuals need from a mental health standpoint, and really trying to get them placed or somewhere where the help is going to work for them. Unfortunately, the placements aren't long-term, and they're typically out relatively quick. And it's usually multiple times, not a single incident. So I am certain, if we're talking about the same person, that's probably happened on more than one occasion.
Yeah, I just hate to see that, it seems like one of the phone calls is going to be that he's passed away. And if we can, someone on the call, if someone could take the action and to get mental health services and housing services available to him.
That is definitely something that our police department, the sheriff's office, and I know that I'm speaking with Supervisor Gore about that exact thing right now. So we're doing our best to get as many people up here as possible and getting cooperation from everybody at the same time.
Yeah, so I feel like we're the ignored part of the northern part of Sonoma County. So
it's almost statewide with that one right now.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Angela Cordova is next.
Hello there. I just wanted to know, what is the plan for the homeless that are refusing services, refusing to move along, refusing to get off of the river, refusing to cooperate with anything, and just basically do whatever the hell they want? And I also want to know, what's the plan for pushing for conservatorship of some of these people, like the young man that we were just talking about. I did give the family the information to the county representative that was very interested in helping him. I did not circle back and follow up with the family to find out if they were able to get services for him or not. I didn't really feel that was my place, but there's got to be something that law enforcement can write up or push for getting these people conserved, because some of them are not able to make these decisions, of what's better for them or whatnot, aside from all the ones that are running around, drug rampant. So my concern is, it's very unsettling that law enforcement can't even do their jobs when the refusal happens. When they refuse services, then what? You just walk away, put your hands up, okay, just move to the next corner, whatever. There's got to be some type of punishment for refusing the services, bottom line. And I also want to commend Wallace House on their new project and offering 22 low-income units in their new facility that they're building for anybody. 22 low-income units for anybody is pretty amazing. So I think that's really something to be proud of for Wallace House.
I could make a couple of responses to her, if that's okay, Councilmember Lands. Is that clear?
Sorry, please, Chief, go ahead.
All right, no problem. Angela, thanks for your comments. I do want to make a couple of additional comments. When you use the word punishment for refusing to do something, we don't look at it in terms like that. We are not out here to punish anybody simply because, they don't have a place to stay, because they don't have a place to eat, or because they don't have, the ability to get new clothing. What we do is we try our best to find different avenues. Sometimes those avenues work, sometimes, and a lot of times in this case, they don't. And that's a mere case of people not wanting them. So we try to navigate around what we can by using mental health if it's necessary. Yes, we have made arrests when arrests are merited for things that are happening, but we're not using it simply as a punishment tool. So I just want to clarify that. We're not here to individually seek out the homeless and create the issues for them or because of them. We have made many efforts to try and get some of these folks help, whether they wanted it or not. That is going to be our challenge. So to answer your question, what do we do when they refuse it? We keep trying to find resources that work, or some that might be forced into that resource. I'm not saying they can stay once they're in there or they have to stay, but at least try to get those resources identified, get them in there. I think that is something we'll continue to do. As far as our part, I think, you kind of said it, a lot is put on our shoulders, and I'm sure Lieutenant Duke can say the same. It's not a police problem per se. It is one component to a much larger problem, one that lacks a lot of funding to make things happen and a lot of resources. But we do try to come up with ways to try to keep individuals out of certain areas, to try to still make it pleasurable for the public, but also not, infringe on their civil rights. It's a huge challenge, and one that we're trying our best to do, given the resources that we do have. But I just wanted to clarify, Angela, that we don't look at it as a punishment issue when they choose not to. If we have the resources in the shelter, we try to make that happen as best as possible.
And I understand that, and I appreciate all that the law enforcement does, and I completely understand that their hands are tied. But when services are refused, there's other avenues. There's trespassing, there's other avenues. I'm sure they're in possession of hypodermic needles or drug paraphernalia under the influence. I'm sure there's other things that could happen other than, oh, you don't want to go to any services that are offered. You don't want to shelter because they don't want to follow rules. I mean, I know that you all on this entire panel are limited to what you can say or agree with, but I'm pretty sure that in the back of your mind, you're sitting there saying, yeah, that's the problem. They want to do whatever the hell they want because they refuse services. They don't want to follow rules. They want to continue running amok on drugs and pillaging our community. And that's just not okay, because bottom line, that's going to turn a bunch of people, and I'll even admit probably myself, that's going to turn people to become vigilante to deal with it themselves. And that's pretty much where people are getting pushed to, not because of you, but because of what you're restricted to be able to do.
So I hope it doesn't resort to that, Angela, and I truly mean that. I would hate to see that, but I'm gonna just answer this last thing that you brought up. I get the arrest, I get the jail, I get the citation, but do understand this is also something that falls into the law enforcement arena that isn't exactly the solution. Taking a person to jail 30 different times on a syringe, on a pipe, you are seeing the result of that. It's ultimately not a lot. They're right back here, right? So we have this going back and forth constant thing where we drive them down there and they're going to get back there as fast as we do, because the jail is not equipped to take all of these things, given all the other circumstances that are taking place across the county. Because we're not the only ones dealing with this. You can go to Healdsburg, Windsor, all of them have the exact same problems and the exact same challenges on how to remedy. So we can cite 100 times. I don't know that we're going to gain any further ground. We can arrest 100 times. I don't think we're going to gain any further ground than we are right now. And a lot of things have to do with Prop 47 that make this a challenge, and legislation that comes down that changes our ability to get these people into a program, into a rehab from the jail standpoint, which used to happen. So a lot of factors took it out of our hands. So the answer isn't necessarily doing that every single time.
Go after their dealers. Go after the problem. Start eliminating their contacts, their resources, their drug, the dealers. There you go. Stop protecting them.
Thank you, Angela, and thank you, Chief. Moving on to the next person is going to be Vicente Duarte. Irene, if you could bring him in.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes, sir, we hear you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for the time. Council, how do I address you? Council member, Chair Land, sorry. What I have to say is it's kind of, I mean, it seems like every time we have a conversation about homelessness and unsheltered people in Cloverdale, it seems like we always narrow it down to those who are severely and persistently mentally ill, who are also dealing with substance abuse, who are bringing immediate threat to public safety and health, and other crimes that come with it. I think that, and we know that the county is putting blinders on and washing their hands and doing all these things and not addressing what really needs to be addressed. The mental health aspect. Nobody wants to deal with it because it's hard when you have a group or a specific population who's dealing with mental illness and substance abuse, and they don't want any help. And I think that it is sad that it always comes down to whose responsibility are they, right? Because when you really talk about homeless people in Cloverdale, especially in the last year or so, our community has risen to the occasion, making sure people who needed to have a roof over their head, they had one. Especially people like Randy de Caminada and Michael Velasquez from St. Vincent de Paul, St. Peter's Church, and also Bob Scott from Good Shepherd Church in Cloverdale, not to mention the whole community of Cloverdale. And other community advocates such as Angela Cordova and my wife, Cristina Duarte, who are always trying to help the community. But the thing is, let's stop talking about homelessness and let's call it what it is. Who are we really dealing with, or what's our problem in Cloverdale right now? Is it homelessness, or is it a group of population who's refusing to get support and help, who are dealing with mental illness and substance abuse? I wish I could take my family for a walk along the river. But I don't take them, not because I'm scared to face anything that I can get there, but I'm afraid that I'm going to be put in a position where they're going to be in danger. And I think the safety, everybody's asking, what do we need for homeless? How about what do we need for the community of Cloverdale? We need to feel safe. We need to feel like we are being heard. And it's really hard because it's all talk, but we're not getting anything done. Thank you for your time, and I appreciate what you guys are doing with these meetings. I just wish that they were a little bit later in the day where we can, more people in the community can join. I had to take time from my work to join this meeting, but again, thank you for all you do.
Thank you, sir. I completely agree with you. We need to separate the homelessness from the criminal elements, and we talk about that a lot. And as for the meeting time, that's going to get brought up at the end of this meeting to hopefully we can schedule at least one, or if not all of the meetings at a later hour, or at least maybe rotate them so that we can get more of the public involved. So I appreciate your comments and thank you for that. Seeing one more hand, let's see what we have here. Margaret, is your hands up from the past or is it up again?
No, it's up again. I just wanted to give a point of clarification because there was a public comment made about the point in time count, and I just want to make sure everybody understands what happened so that it's clear. In 2021, the County of Sonoma, as with all counties across California, did not conduct their typical formal point in time count because of COVID and having volunteers out there in the encampments. They did count the people who were in shelters and they counted the people who were in permanent supportive housing, but there was not an official point of time count for unsheltered individuals. I just wanted to clarify that that is for 2021. Thank you.
Thank you, Margaret. David, would you like to continue with your plan?
Yeah, thank you, Chair Lance. Please. And I want to just reflect that what we heard is a lot of comment about mental health services. And I think that is critical to capture. And I've made a note that's some of the feedback was about the need for mental health services. And just want to reflect that mental health services traditionally are provided at the county level because the county is the entity that has the department and receives the funding for mental health services. I think we ought to reflect a strategy or at least a supporting action in the framework to reflect the input that we, at least what I'm hearing, Chair, is a desire for additional mental health services within our community, or at least directed towards the homeless population. So I guess I wanted to pose that question, Chair, if I'm accurately capturing the comments that are being made by the community as part of public comment.
Thank you, sir. And yeah, I would completely agree. That's something that I know that I have spoken with Debbie Howell, James Gore, and a couple others on this board about, is exactly that. It's not just getting them into a home. It's actually solving the underlying issues, and that's difficult without county and state on board. So please, I would love to have that included somewhere, and please continue.
All right, thank you, Chair. We'll update an action to reflect that, and write a comprehensive measure, that addresses, the outreach services that are critical. And I think to Renee Rowe's comment, being able to have a phone number that we call to provide that, real-time response to, somebody who, may be experiencing trauma and is also, laying on the streets in an incapacitated state, rather than having our police department maybe respond, getting the appropriate healthcare professional. So we'll update that accordingly. And that really goes to, I think, it's kind of a perfect pivot point back to the draft framework. Goal 4 is written to provide coordinated outreach and supportive services to homeless individuals and families that promote self-sufficiency and personal stability. The first supporting action under that framework is to provide field-based outreach to connect homeless individuals with services and permanent supportive housing options. So, we'll look at that and see, identify who are the key leads and partners to assist with that, and also try to bring in those services that are provided by the county, the IMDT team, and the HEART team, and reflect them as a entity. One of the additional supporting actions is to identify a centrally located facility for providing meals and services to our unsheltered population. Previously, there was services provided by St. Vincent's de Paul prior to the onset of COVID. And this action step was to kind of reflect and memorialize that service. It seemed like it was valuable. But that's an area where we'll want to, get the input from the community. Is that something the community supports? Trying to reestablish that type of centrally located facility to help, address and provide that direct outreach to our unsheltered population. Additional measures, including, partnering with other organizations. The framework provides, Sonoma State University. They may or may not be the appropriate entity to partner with to maybe get folks in the social work field to, help conduct outreach. I think it requires, additional training for those outreach workers. Also, creating a peer advocate group to help self-regulate the homeless community. I think that's something that is certain municipalities are using to help address, kind of self-management and what those programs are. So it's an opportunity for us to look at that. And also to partner with our business community. I know Nina is on from the chamber to see if there's opportunities for work or for jobs for our homeless population. And sometimes the key is to get some income generation that can help folks get back on their feet. But again, that's a strategy that's identified in Goal 4. Goal 5 is to increase community awareness of the Cloverdale Homeless Initiative. We really do want to be as transparent as we can about this planning effort. And we've heard the calls to schedule meetings at other times, and I know Chair will work with you on identifying days and times for this meeting that could facilitate additional participation. Because ultimately, we really do want to get community input, hold community meetings, and help improve the understanding of some of the issues around homelessness. So we hear a lot about health and safety of our community, and some of the measures that we're proposing may not be targeted exactly where the priority of the community is focusing. So we may want to really look at that, and sometimes they're transitory in nature, and we need to be flexible and adaptable. Ultimately, we also would like to identify what are the best techniques to share with the community what we're doing, and how we're doing, both in the way of information on our website, our newsletter, social media, and what does that look like? How do we reach out to the community to make sure that the community is informed on what action steps and measures we're taking? And that's something it's identified as an action, but we'd like to hear from the group in terms of what are some of the specific steps we can take to do our role better in terms of identifying the work that we're performing to address homelessness, other than just holding these meetings and getting updates. So goal number 6, and I think this speaks to some of the calls and public comments, is to advocate for systemic change at the county, at state and federal levels to help strengthen our efforts. We heard about the need for mental health services, and we do need to work with the federal agencies that provide funding to help ensure that the funding is programs are developed in such a way that's going to really help provide the resources we need to help tackle this problem. I understand we've heard that that Cloverdale can kind of handle it without outside help, but I think it does require a lot of resources, and it requires some technical expertise that I believe is outside the scope of the city's ability to provide, and therefore it's either, if it's not outside resources from the county or state, what are the local resources that can be made available, or are locals willing to provide to help provide the support needed? So there are some additional supporting actions under goal 7. And I'll kind of leave it there again, Chair. The last one is really just about, what's the governance structure once we agree on the first 6 goals.
Thank you, sir. Anyone in the panel have any questions or want to speak up regarding the last 4 goals? Seeing none, let me go over to the attendees and see if anyone has a hand. Anyone in the audience, in the public?
And Chair, I just mentioned Acting Mayor, Vice Mayor Cruz has joined us.
Thank you, Acting Mayor Cruz. It's good to see you, and I hope all is well with you.
Some health complications, but I'm here to continue to assist in any way that I can.
Thank you so much. It looks like we do have one hand in the public. It's going to be Angela again. Angela, please. Angela, are you there?
Can you hear me?
There, we got you.
Sorry about that. So I hear all this talk about help, but there's no talk about the property damage that's being done by the homeless, the trespassing, the trash, the needles, the fire dangers. What about all of that? Who's going to be responsible for all of that when this is caused by them? Because they refuse to leave whatever areas they decide they're going to take over. That's all.
Thank you, Angela. Any of our panelists want to make a comment on that? Chief, Lieutenant Duke? Okay. So that's, Angela, that's kind of where we have to decide the difference between the homeless with issues that we can handle and the criminal element, like I said earlier. And that's where we're all working hard to separate those and see what we can do to stop the problems before they really continue. And that's exactly what I've been meeting with everyone about. And like I said earlier, there's an email going out of pushing to create the solution for that exact problem. Okay. No other comments? My screen's been going crazy and I'm trying to keep up as it's making me dizzy watching it. So I apologize if I'm looking kind of funny. I don't know what's going on, but it's going nuts.
We have one more, Chair Land from Vicente.
I appreciate that.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Thank you again for allowing me the time to comment again. one concern that I have as a Cloverdale resident is the amount of work that Chief Ferguson might be getting on top of everything that he's dealing with at the moment. And talking about the current cleanups in Santa Rosa. Where are those people going? It seems like they're finding their way to Cloverdale. We talked about the mental health aspect. It's a county, the county is responsible for that, but the county tends to not be doing much about the mental health help that these particular population need. So then what's going to happen? My other concern is that, we're talking up about shelters and this and that, and it seems like the county wants to put a lot in our plate. Yeah, it seems like every time Cloverdale doesn't exist on many of the plans of the county, but when it comes to what benefits the county, they want to put a lot of pressure. Chief Ferguson already mentioned the amount of work that it's going to add, and it's already adding to his workforce. So, and one more comment about the survey at the end of the agenda. It might just be me, but to be honest, after 20 questions, I said, this is way too much. And I was just barely halfway. So if there's a way to simplify it and get it to the points that we need to focus on, I think that would be tremendous for our community. Thank you for your time again.
Thank you, sir. We really appreciate your comments. Any other hands, Irene? I see Leanne hand back up.
Yes.
Hey, guys. I just think we need to get a commitment from behavioral health to be present and engage with homeless people, especially those who have severe mental illness. Okay. In the past, behavioral health performed outreach weekly. I think twice weekly. Can we get someone from behavioral health involved in this meeting and get the county out of there? Because why is the county involved in what's going on in Cloverdale? Otherwise, we're not communicating efficiently with the entity with the needed resources. We need to have behavioral health and really focus in on what these people need, which is human connection. And that's it.
Thank you, Leanne. I really appreciate it. Any other comments? Please.
I was going to ask if maybe we can ask Blake Manning, or I think Debbie's left. I think Alexander Valley Healthcare does coordinate with county behavioral health and participates on various committees. If they might be able to, Blake, if you might be able to share an update of how you interface and coordinate with behavioral health and mental health services with the county, and how you bring those services to our community.
Right. So we had a couple representatives from the county who were coming to the church when we were doing the outreach at the church on Tuesdays, and they were actually coming to this group. I don't know what happened, or if they haven't shown. I haven't seen either of them since we've done this virtually. But I can reach out to them to find out if they would be interested, and I would, hopefully encourage them to be able to come and attend. But as far as Alexander Valley Healthcare, we do see a lot of our homeless community. We don't have necessarily the level of care to provide the care that they really do need, if that makes any sense. And that also goes with substance abuse. So we provide our outpatient, counseling, for substance abuse, but we don't have anything residential around here. The closest residential would be in Santa Rosa. And as you know, most treatment for alcohol and drug dependency is generally funded by private insurance. It's very hard for somebody with public insurance to be able to get into a residential facility. So I just wanted to touch on that because I know somebody said that, you know, the majority of, you know, the homeless population in Cloverdale has an issue with substance abuse. I don't disagree with that, you know, but as far as level of care, that's a big issue. And we have referred people out and have tried working with the county. The county has, well, I don't really need to touch on that, but it's been, you know, difficult. But what I can do is I can reach out to the representatives who were coming. I think the last time I saw them was at the firehouse when we had one of the meetings over there. I don't know if I can take the lead on that. If somebody could send me the emails to them and I could reach out, or if you guys want to reach out to them. But that would be, I think that'd be helpful because I don't think they've attended. Am I wrong or?
I think you're right, Blake. We haven't had attendance since, you know, we reinitiated this effort with COVID. I'm happy to coordinate with you and see if we can't, you know, make direct contact. Also work with the staff at the Community Development Commission to see if we can connect with behavioral health, so we can identify, you know, some of the concerns that our community has, and they can also bring to bear, you know, some of the services that they offer and how we can, you know, utilize them to address the needs of our unsheltered population in Cloverdale.
Right, because as far as AVH goes, I can't speak on this or make the decision, obviously, but I think one of the things that we were running into when we were talking about having somebody go out into the field, like when somebody would be downtown intoxicated, liability was an issue. So, in safety and liability. So if that's something that, you know, I don't know who would want to work with Debbie around that, but that might be something that I know we were kind of talking about that in the past. I haven't talked with her about that recently. But you know, as far as, you know, that might be something that you could possibly bring up, and you know, we might be able to work with something around that. But yeah, that's all I got right now.
Thank you, Blake. I appreciate that. Irene, could you bring Chuck back into the panelists? I think he might have some information on my next question I'm going to have. If not, he can just shoot me down. I was talking to Gore last week about Laura's Law, and I was wondering if he could give us some insight on where we are in Sonoma County as being able to help with that or use that as a way to get people treatment with severe mental illnesses, psychosis, all that kind of behavior. Chuck, would you have any info on that? And you're on mute if you're trying to answer. Okay, seeing none. I don't know if there's anyone else on here that might have some. Jody, would you have anything towards any information on that? I know it's a county issue. It looks like Chuck sent us a message. He said he's going to look into Laura's Law. So basically, Laura's Law is just the court-ordered treatment for people with severe mental illness that aren't helping themselves and refusing the help. And I know that we have a lot of people, one discussed earlier in our group that would affect. And we have another one that's been committed with 5150s. I think he said like 7 times or more at our last meeting from Cloverdale. And so there's several of those in Cloverdale that could use the help of Laura's Law. And so that's something I would really like everyone to look into or push through the county. And I don't have the right representative on here to make it happen today. So just something for food for thought for the future. Any other comments on that before we move or anything towards this?
Chair?
Yes, please. Madam Mayor, you put yourself on mute.
Yeah. Okay. I would appreciate if you can provide a short statement on that, and in the next ad hoc committee that is coming up, Irene, is it this coming week? we will present this. I'm also very concerned about what Angela said. We need to find out who is going to be in charge of damages. Perhaps that's a legal question, and it has a lot to do with jurisdiction also. So those are two issues that I'm very concerned about. I do know that the meetings that the county is having is definitely working towards mental health assistance, like ASAP. So that is something that's definitely going to be implemented soon, and it's overdue. I would like to ask Margaret if she has any. I'm sorry, I came in late. I don't know if you already talked about this. If you have any information about your street nurse and recommendations that could be made for mental health.
Yeah, so our licensed vocational nurse who goes out and does street medicine does refer people to mental health services when appropriate. I think part of the issue is getting people to accept the help and getting them to the point where they're ready to address their mental health concerns. I think that, you know, that's always a little bit tricky. But she is out there. She goes to Cloverdale once a week, sometimes twice a week. We're out there twice a week, but Jackie's there at least once a week. And we are always trying to refer people to mental health services. Pre-pandemic, we had someone going out with us. But since the pandemic, we haven't been able to actually have the mental health provider out there with us, but we will be bringing that back, and it will be a part of our mobile health and wellness unit that will be going out. But we can always use more help. Mental health is obviously an all hands on deck situation, and it's the most tricky part, I think, of homelessness. So,
and Margaret, are you able to keep track of what has happened with these individuals that have been referred? Have they follow up on their treatment? Are they back?
No. So
I mean, that is essential information.
One of the tricky parts about that, Marta, is that they have to tell so the person who goes through the mental health rehabilitation has to allow that provider, and I'm sure Alexander Health could let you know more about this, they have to fill out a form saying that they can give us the information back. So that's part of the problem, is we have people who are 5150'd, they go in to get services, they get on medication, they're doing great, they get released, we're not informed because they didn't say we could be informed. Nobody's informed, right? None of us in the community. They're back out on the street, they stop taking their meds, they get 5150'd again, they're back, they go out. There's a break in the system. And if we knew they were coming out, we could probably have, like, not probably, but like a licensed vocational nurse, such as our street medicine, could go and help intervene and help from the streets, you know, make sure that their prescription adherence is going well and that their medications are being taken and stuff, but we don't have that information and it's not allowed to be given. But great point.
Which is exactly my point of Laura's law. So there is a controlling factor, and it would be the county. And it would be, I know court systems aren't always ideal, but they can create a division that would look over these people to make them be med compliant, because that's the problem with probably 90% of our issues in Cloverdale. Looks like we might have one more hand, or that's an old hand, I believe.
Chair, before.
Yes, please.
Yeah, Chair, I just saw in the chat that Melanie Hall indicated that Providence has a mobile clinic at the Citrus Fair every Monday from 2 to 4. Is that a new service, Melanie?
Yeah, that just started on the first Monday in May. That's been a goal of the senior centers for several months, and we just finalized the details and got the mobile clinic up and running and at the fairgrounds starting May 3rd. So that will be ongoing.
And would that information be able to be shared with the chair and David, so that we can keep track of who are the, you know, who is providing services and what organizations are available?
I think that's an excellent idea, Marta.
Okay,
The
thank
best
you.
way so we don't duplicate efforts.
Exactly. We need to, part of the problem, not only with homelessness and mental health, but also with food security, is the fact that organizations are not talking to one another. And we need to serve as somewhat of a, what would I say, a place for distribution of information among all those that are impacted by the situation. We need to be a clearinghouse. That's the word I was looking for. Thank you.
So I was just working as a part of the 4th District stuff on a resource guide for Healdsburg, and we just got it finished. Someone helped put it together, and our next step was to do something like that for Cloverdale if it's something that you think would be helpful. I'm just putting together a guide of where the healthcare is, where the food services are, and it's meant to be even printable, so you can take it out. We put it on our website, you can put it on the city website. Is that something Cloverdale has that we would build off of, or is that something that you would like help with? Either way is fine, but I'd be happy to take lead on that.
David, do you think that would fall under the Resilient Cloverdale, and maybe Nina Hanchett could be that point person with this information?
Kevin, please.
And I would recommend that Kevin Thompson coordinate with Margaret. We do have a one-page informational flyer, but it's a little dated now. It's been a couple of years, so I do think it's time to update it and share that with the community. It could be provided through the programs that are offered by or are part of Resilient Cloverdale, so that the community is aware of some of the efforts and where they can get access to resources. So Margaret, I take you up on your offer, and Kevin, I know would be happy to coordinate with you, and we'll update what we have with the research you have, and it may be worth identifying resources. Not everything specific to Cloverdale. If there are things that are on the periphery, since some of the homeless population are coming in from the unincorporated areas, we can have a better geographic scope for the services that are being provided in our area.
Perfect. Thank you. I'll reach out to you, Kevin.
Chuck, it looks like you have your hand up.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Great. Okay. So as far as the comment before about the county being able to force people to take their meds, that is gets kind of into an issue that I think maybe you might want to have some representation from behavioral health to kind of explain what would go into an LPS conservatorship, which would essentially be where somebody would be able to be forced to take the meds. Mental health clients, people with mental health disorders, are not required to take medications, even if they're in services, unless they're conserved by the state or the county. That can't happen. So I think that there's a little challenge with that as far as if somebody's homeless and needs to take medications. They also have the right to not do that. So I'm not quite sure how that interferes or works in with the questions that are being asked. But I just wanted to kind of point out that LPS conservatorships are essentially removing somebody's constitutional rights to have personal autonomy in many ways. And that's a difficult thing to get through a judge, and also it takes a long time because you have to have several 5150s in order to be able to prove that somebody is a danger to themselves or others and has to be forced to take medications. With Housing First, we also have the mandate of having low barrier shelters and services. So that all kind of plays together. But I think you might be, in order to kind of help with this conversation, you might want to seek out, maybe I can find out who would be a best representative from behavioral health to help explain some of the nuances of that.
Yeah, we understand that, and we're kind of almost one step past that. And I appreciate your comments, Chuck. I hate to throw you in the middle of that with the Laura's Law question I threw at you. Okay, David.
I will look into that too as well.
Thank you. David, I'd like you to continue on to your next item, please.
Thank you, Chair. And I think at this point,
Excuse me, I thought Leanne had her hand up, the public.
Is it up again or is it still up? Leanne?
I'm just wondering what happened to the mobile support team, the mobile mental health support team that was funded by the PG&E like payout to the county that was supposed to come up north of Windsor. I mean, what's going on with that? I don't know. Because our police force cannot handle what's going on. It's all mental health. I have spoken to the young person that you have referenced here, and he could be my child, he could be your child. So you know what? Just get over it and just look at the humanity aspect of this. We got other problems over here in Cloverdale. I get it. We got the criminal aspect, we got the drug addicts, we got the mentally ill. But there is a child out there of some really good citizens of this community that is suffering. And they're done. I can't. And Marta, whatever your health concerns are, you should have been on here from the get-go. You're the appointed mayor of this town. Come on, that's not a good enough excuse. Goodbye.
Surgery is not something that I can't control, and this is not the moment to get into personal issues. We are here to address issues of the community that we need to work together at all times. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Appreciate that. Okay, David, please.
okay, thank you, Chair. And I think at this point, we've covered the bulk of the goals and the plan. What Kevin Thompson has done is taken those action steps from each of the goals and put them in a survey format. And we did hear one comment back that maybe the survey is too long, too many questions. But what it does reflect is those strategies that were included in the draft framework, of which there is 39, or excuse me, 38. And what we want to seek the input from the community advisory group is input on the survey and get your support for releasing it to help identify what are the priority measures that this community, that the community sees as either highly important, a top priority, not very important, or not important at all. So what could help us focus what strategies we identify which strategies we should focus on as part of implementation of a strategic plan. So I'll turn it over, Kevin, if you want to maybe give an overview of the survey and the community steps.
Thank you. So, we started out with a couple of meetings at the firehouse and the senior center, and we were going through each one of these supporting actions. And what we were planning to do at the time was to hand out papers, with all those on there, and seeking input from people about which ones they thought were the most important. So instead of doing that, since we're all kind of working remote, we've put it into a survey monkey. The idea here really, again, is to whittle these down. There's 38 of them. They may not all be the right idea for Cloverdale, but we want to release the survey, see what, maybe just hypothetically, the top 10. So then we can, maybe within that top 10, there'll be themes where we can, maybe folks who are interested in working on those particular supporting actions after we know, which ones make sense for Cloverdale. So it's all in there. Yes, it's long. The only problem I would see with cutting it is then we would be kind of cutting something out of the plan that would be, at, David or I's discretion on which ones to take out. So my personal opinion would be that we keep all 38. I know it's long, but once we receive those back, then we can go over those, the ones that are at the bottom, maybe we can remove, and then we can focus on the ones that make sense. And we did include, I think it was Margaret's suggestion, the very last question is just kind of a blank box for anyone to add anything they'd like to. So, I mean, that's the strategy. We were going through these again. I had my PowerPoint going at those two meetings, and each one of them sort of invoked a lot of conversation, I thought, which was helpful. But this way we can really, I think the goal of this survey is to whittle it down from 38 to a more manageable and try to figure out which ones are best for Cloverdale.
Thank you, Kevin. I really appreciate that. Any of the panelists want to make any comments on this? Seeing no hands. Kevin, I would have agreed with Vicente right out the gate. 38 questions. I start to get a little glaze over my eyes after about 20. And you start to wonder if they're all the same thing. And you start going back, you get to 17 and you start looking back at number 3 and things like that. So it might be something we do just kind of, clean it up, but just a little bit more. They're great questions and a good starting point for sure. And I think that just a little bit more whittling will have it somewhere that even people like me will focus on it. So, but I think it looks really good so far.
Yeah,
please go ahead.
Certainly, maybe, David and I and the chief, or we could take a look at it, see if there's any things that seem redundant. Maybe try to do an initial whittle down before we release it, if that's okay with the group. There may be some that just come out just right away based on what we've had and based on the discussions we've had through the through these past meetings. So I'm open to it.
It was definitely thorough, and I truly appreciate that, because that's what we need to see what our community truly wants and needs. Anyone else in our group want to comment on this?
I would like to know how is the response so far?
Vice Mayor, we haven't released it yet. We've brought it to the group to get your input before we release it. It's ready to go. I mean, we can do it at any time. But
well, if it's not done yet, then let's go ahead and look at the setup and perhaps condensing a couple of questions. I mean, I'll be happy to give you some further feedback on how it's more appealing.
Yeah.
So that Todd and I don't go bored with it.
Well, really, I didn't make all these up. I mean, they came out of the Homeless Strategic Framework Plan. So, I mean, I certainly wouldn't have, but, if we can whittle, that might be the first step, just to filter it at this level. And then once we get community input, we can filter it further and just really try to get it down to stuff that makes sense.
I think we should do a couple, I mean, in terms of the test run, how did the test run beyond what the people who received the agenda? Anybody else? Did you do a test run with anybody else?
I think that's a good idea. Starting with our group to see how we feel about it.
I mean, yeah, it's on SurveyMonkey, so we can designate who it gets emailed to. Maybe that is a great idea. We can just email it to this group first.
Yeah, let's do it, and let's do it right away so that we don't delay on it, and we can have information to present to the county when we meet and so on. So send it to us. We finish it over the next 2-3 days, and then you get the feedback from the group.
Okay, so the direction is to just release it with all 38, and then based on what we get from this group, we might, before the larger public release, we can trim it down. Is that the direction, or?
Could you hear that again? You kind of broke up for me.
When we release it to this group, it'll contain all 38, and then based on what we get back from you folks, we'll whittle it down more before it goes out to the general public. Okay.
Thank you, Kevin. Thank you, Madam Mayor. It looks like we have one hand up in the audience. Irene, if you could bring in Sue.
Hello, this is Susan. Thank you so much for holding the meeting today. I'm just a little confused when I'm hearing it's going to go out to the community, to the county. I'm just confused at how the community would receive this. Or is it just for people that are on the email blast, or how would we get it? I'm just confused. Thanks for clarifying.
Kevin, I'll let you speak to that.
The idea is to release it to the folks who are on the advisory committee first, so that they can go through it. And then once we get that results, then it will be released widely through the community, through our social media channels, and however, what we can get the word out there. It is an online survey. So I'm not sure if that answers your question, but I think the idea, the idea is to just, because there's so many there and we've heard comments that it's too long, but this committee would take the time to go through all of them, you know, with benefit the rest of the community who won't have to once we eliminate some of them.
No, that's absolutely clear. I was clear that you guys are going to do it yourself, see what it, how it flowed. I just wasn't sure how the community was going to receive it, but that absolutely answers my question. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Sue. Melanie, please.
Mr. Chair, if I may, and the other thing, Sue, is that this information is going to be very beneficial for whenever Cloverdale is represented in county meetings regarding homelessness. So we can really bring information that the community wants out there.
Thank you. Melanie, you have your hand up?
Yeah, I was just wondering if it might work for this committee when you send out that survey, if we leave blank the questions that we think are redundant, and that might help to whittle the survey down a little bit. Thoughts?
Kevin, would that help you with your ideas so that our comments were basically made that way?
So let me understand it. If you didn't answer the question, then you think it was covered in a different question?
That was my thought.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. That seems like an easy way maybe to, and then we can report back, number 38 was left blank this number of times. Maybe if it's okay with the group, we would get the information, we get responses from this group, then do our filtering and then release it widely before the next meeting, or would you rather have us come back with what we, okay, so I see one head shaking, no. So we'll give you guys a week to do it. Then we'll, David, Chief, and I keep volunteering Chief, he's got enough to do, but we'll try to get it down, and then we'll do our media campaign to release it widely.
I think that's perfect, Kevin. Thank you. I think the sooner the better. So we might even have some results at our next meeting. Just keep moving forward versus being on spinning our wheels here. Margaret, please. I see your hand up.
Really quick, I was just going to point out that since there's that free flow section where you can type in whatever, you could put your feedback that number 2 is similar to number 4. That way you're not deciphering blank answers as to which one it's an overlap of. Just a suggestion if people put notes there.
Great, thank you. And looks like Renee in the audience. Irene.
Yes, just one thought, since again, I always bring up this is a community advisory group, and so it would be great for even a survey like this to have some of the people that are active on these calls that are in the meetings that are members of the community instead of the organizations in the city and county to help you with the survey. Happy to help. And that actually brings me to a second question. We can't see who's on these calls besides those of you that are on the screen. And I have no idea how many people are participating in these calls and who those people are. It would be great to have more transparency on that.
Renee, that was the great thing about having these in person, because when you packed a room, you could see everyone and knew who everyone was and see who was speaking. I'll tell you right now, currently there's 27 participants. But my problem with it is 19 of them are on the panel. So that means there's only 8 attendees. And I'd like to see that number reversed where we have twice as many attendees as we do panelists. So the public really gets their input.
Okay, and great. That goes back to having the meetings in the evenings when people aren't at work.
Yes,
Just
ma'am.
I just think it's a misnomer to call it a community advisory group when community members are not in participation. It's the same handful of us that have more flexibility with our schedule.
Yes, ma'am. That's what we will discuss at our next little bullet point here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You know, we also, Mr. Chair, we also need to say thank you to the people who come to the meetings, because they're stakeholders who would definitely benefit any action that will take place regarding any of the concerns from anyone in the community. So yes, we would love to have more community members without necessarily having a title or a position in the organizations. That's why we have to continue to promote these events. And as soon as we can get the green light to meet in person, we're definitely going to have this and have it at other times where more people can participate. I'm hoping that we could even have a meeting on a Saturday, Todd, that would have more openness for participation. So we're definitely listening to you. We're definitely taking the measures that we need, and we will continue to do so. Thank you, Renee.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Margaret, did you have another comment? Is your hand still up from the last one? Okay, thank you.
I had one other comment. If you can
Oh, yes, please go ahead.
Yeah, just related to that, I think one of the beauties of having the meetings via Zoom is actually more people can participate. And for someone like me, I can multitask and do other things that I need to get done at the same time. So I'd actually be worried about in the future having the meetings in person are much more difficult for people to get to have kids and other things going on in their lives, but people can pop in and out as they're available. So hopefully we can consider going forward on Zoom, but to again have maximum participation when it's in the evening.
That's a good thought. Thank you.
Thank you.
Looks like Susan has her hand up again.
I just wanted to add that absolutely my ability to go to meetings has been increased by Zoom. So just there's more than one person who feels that way. And it's important and I want to participate, but always getting to a meeting is not possible. So just adding that into the feedback. So thank you very much again for hosting the meeting today.
Thank you, Susan. Well, I think that took care of the public comments at the same time there, Mr. Kelly. So maybe we move into the next steps with trying to schedule the next meeting. I know we have a schedule set up, but maybe we can take the time to discuss a different time and call it a special, or how would you like to handle that? Or what do you think?
Chair, we definitely heard that there's interest in having a meeting later in the afternoon, and we did host a few meetings of the community advisory group, at 5 or 5:30. So staff's here as your team to help as best we can with moving this effort forward, and it's really about finding a time that works for the group in terms of meeting time, and this was previously an available time for everybody. So it's really just finding some dates and times that work for the group. Generally, we've identified the second Tuesday of the month as a good date, and if that continues to work for everybody, we would stick with that date. And then it's just about what's the time that works. We've heard kind of later in the afternoon. Do you want to start, have a start time at 5, or are we really looking, something a little bit later in the evening?
I think that's a great idea. And the other part of it, I had a lot of comments from our panelists after the last meeting about the length of it as well, Mr. Kelly. So I'm hoping that maybe we can, if we did it at 5, we can cut it off at 6:30 and condense our agenda a little bit so that we're not taking up so much of the family time as well. So I'd like to hear from the panelists if anybody has any other ideas. I'll throw out there 5 to 6:30 on June 8th and see what everyone has to say and what you think, and what the concerns would be. Anyone?
I'd support it.
June 8th is fine with me too.
Anyone else? No other? I don't see any hands popping up.
This is Michael from the county. I might not be on that day, but I can make sure somebody's there. So all good.
Thank you, Michael. I'm looking at my calendar just to make sure that there's nothing in the evening on that one. Now we're good. Just this one in the morning meeting. So any other panelists with any other conflicts? Great. David, can we make that happen? Just change it and maybe condense the agenda a little bit to be more specific with whatever couple topics we want to try to accomplish.
Absolutely. We'll go ahead and identify the next meeting consistent with the date is June 8th. But instead of a start time of 1, we'll identify a start time of 5 o'clock and an end time of 6:30.
Beautiful. I'm going to try to get county representative, through Gore's office in here to discuss what they're doing as well. So that it's not just us talking about the county meeting. Maybe one of them can come speak specifically as to what they're doing, or they could take part in this to bring back to theirs as well, not just us, so that it's more personal and more efficient.
Absolutely. And
Matt,
we will make the request.
Yes.
And Irene, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think Supervisor Gore's staff members are included on the distribution list. Probably Jenny Chamberlain or Jen Mendoza.
Jen Mendoza is.
That's correct. Yes. They have been receiving the emails and agendas, but other than that, I cannot say.
Thank you so much. Anything else? I see one hand in the attendees. Last comment, Angela.
Thank you, David, for changing the time for the meeting. I think it's worth a shot to see if you can get more community involvement. I know I'm always the one that's riding your ass and everyone else, but as I've told you before, don't take it personal. It's just who I am and what I do. And I do appreciate what you do put into it. On your next agenda, if there's a way you could put a line item for transients and crime, that would be, that seems to be a hot topic out in the community's conversation. So, Mr. Lands, there is somebody from the county that I think you should connect with. That would be probably beneficial to come to the next meeting, and I can email you his contact information. He is also the person that is trying to coordinate possibly conserving the gentleman that we spoke about earlier with the chief. And that's pretty much what this guy does. And he is part of the outreach team, but I think he's at a higher level. So I will absolutely send you his information for a possible invite at the next meeting. And again, I thank you guys for, trying to put forth whatever effort you can with limited, resources, and Chief Ferguson limited on, his staff being able to perform their duties as well. And also the department. There's a lot of appreciation. I know it's not always said, but there truly is.
Thank you, Angela.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, please.
Regarding Angela's point about transients, I would like to ask David if it's possible to perhaps contact Mr. Albee for transportation to see if there's any way that we can see if we can transport people or have more buses on a particular day when we see more people in town that are transient. And I wonder if that's on Fridays. I mean, you guys know what is kind of the flow. So I think it would be worth checking into when do we have more transient in town and how can we have a conversation with Mr. Albee to see if we can have more buses available for people to be able to move on to whatever the destination is, because many of them are going north, some are going south, and we need to make sure that we have an adequate frequency of transportation.
Vice Mayor, if I can respond to your question, it might be helpful if we can, and Chair, you agree, invite Brian Albee, who is the manager of Sonoma County Transit, to maybe just give this community a brief overview of transit services and And then we can talk to how those services might be leveraged to address transportation for our transient and or homeless population.
I think it's a great idea.
I think it's a great idea, but we also need to have an idea of when is the day, which are the days and the times when we may need more of the assistance by Mr. Albee. So if we could all join in that effort, that would be great.
Margaret, you have your hand up.
Yeah, I was just going to add that we do have bus passes that we can provide. I don't know if you have that resource, but if you need it, let us know if there's a way we can, if there's a day when it's busier and we can shift our street outreach, we can come with bus passes if that would be helpful. And then also we have a transit van that we can shuttle people to or from transit or, any of those sorts of things, just to put that out there as well.
Margaret, I have a quick question for you regarding that. If you had somebody sitting at the bus stop and they wanted a ticket to go to Oregon at that exact moment, say they're sitting there with one of Cloverdale PD and they said, we're just trying to get out of town and go see my family in Oregon. How long would it take you to mobilize and have a ticket to get them on a bus to go north?
Probably however long it takes to just get a bus ticket. I mean, we would have to make sure we have it in the budget still, but we have a budget for that. And as long as it's still there, we just helped someone fly back to New Jersey and bought their airplane ticket to get there. And they're 3 months clean and sober with their family. So we'll do whatever we can as quickly as we can. That's our goal, is to reunify people and get them where they want to go on their journey to housing. So.
Thank you. That's great information for all of us. Okay, well, with that, anyone else have anything good for the order before we adjourn? I'd like to thank everybody for all their participation in all this. I know it's a long meeting and it's right in the middle of your day and it's a time suck sometimes, but it's a problem we're all working on. I appreciate everyone's participation. And so the next meeting will be June 8th, 5 o'clock to 6:30 on Zoom. Thank you all.